Hey, Jen from Flourish again. Today I want to share a little bit about my journey and what led me to develop the Flourish Metabolic method and why I'm so passionate about helping women over 35 learn what works for their body, stop the dieting madness, and develop a healthy, sustainable, and long-term relationship with their bodies so you can feel amazing in your own skin again. So let me tell you a little bit about my personal journey. It's a journey really about going from being a worn out, resentful, and self conscious mom who blamed everyone else for her circumstances to finding a place of health and happiness and confidence. I'm Jen. I'm a health and nutrition coach, and I'm also a 10-year gym owner with my husband, Kenny. We've been in the fitness and nutrition business for a long time, but Flourish was born out of a desire to specifically help women struggling with the same thing that held me back for so long. Today, I want to share my journey of healing my relationship with my body, my confidence, and really ultimately my life. I'm sharing this today because I need you to know that I understand. I understand how hard this journey is, and I understand how badly you want to feel like yourself again and how frustrating it can feel to not know how to get there. My journey, man, it began, you guys, when I was 12 years old. That was the first time I felt like I needed to go on a diet. I can remember pinching my stomach in the mirror and wishing it was smaller. I let my body determine my self-worth, and I started to believe that if I wasn't on a diet, then I could not be happy and I did not have value. I believed that everyone was judging me, and I let that anxiety drive me ultimately to an eating disorder. I remember feeling like the only way I could be happy was if my body was perfect, which now I know that perfect word is a 4-letter word in my life. And so I let that desire for perfection really drive my life and lead me to a place where I was very unhappy. I was ruled by an eating disorder that was taking away now from my happiness and from my overall enjoyment of life and ultimately long-term from my health. With help and support from my family, I healed the eating disorder, but the deep feeling of self-consciousness and self-worth tied to body image and food stayed with me for a really long time. And it led me to constantly be proving myself to everyone. It led me to choose other people's priorities over my own over and over and over again. So that was as a high schooler. And then we fast forward 20 years, right? And I'm a new mom. I'm in a job that isn't fulfilling me at all. I'm overwhelmed and resentful pretty much almost all the time. My marriage, let's be honest, was not in a good spot. There was no spark left, and I didn't know how to be joyful again. That self-consciousness that I always have felt around my body is now coupled with an additional 40 pounds of pregnancy weight. Because honestly, I never built habits, right? Like everything I was doing was designed around quick fixes and how my body looked, but it had nothing to do with how my body felt or how my body functioned. And in this place, I am deeply unhappy. I hated looking in the mirror. I hated putting my jeans on. Oh my gosh, I hated putting my jeans on. I remember just like laying on the ground and trying to zip them up. And every time I went into my closet, I remember just feeling this deep sense of dissatisfaction and unhappiness, to the point where I avoided looking in mirrors and I only wore stretch pants, and I let the way I felt about my body really determine how I felt about myself. But those feelings weren't enough for me to make a change. And I had this deeply ingrained story that I didn't have the time. I didn't have the time. I was too busy. I believed I was too tired. I believed that this was just a season. And once I got through this busy season, that I'd have the time. And literally every single Sunday night, I would go to bed thinking the next week would be different. I'd change and everything would be perfect. And then fast forward to the following Sunday, and I was in the exact same spot again. And I think from the outside, like if you knew me during that time, I think I was holding it together, and I'm not sure how many people actually realize how bad I felt inside. And I think so many of us are in that spot right now. We're holding it all together, but inside we feel terrible. I had headaches all the time. I had zero energy. I literally wanted to sleep under my desk constantly. Sugar cravings all the time. I didn't want to have sex with my husband. I was fighting anxiety and depression, and that was ruling so much of my life, so much of how I showed up for my family, my son, in my work. It was really dripping into every area of my life. My solution at the time was just to continue to try quick fixes, right? I would think like, okay, I'm just going to be really strict for 4 weeks, and then I'm going to see results. And I get to those 4 weeks and I lose a little bit of weight, but I go back to doing all the same things I was doing before, and I gain all that weight back. And I just start and stop working out and prioritizing myself and my health over and over and over again. This is where I'm going to get really candid and raw and say, full disclosure, we owned a gym at this point. Like, part of what I was doing was trying to help people start a fitness journey, and I was struggling to get to the gym even more than once a week. And this piece of it took an even bigger toll on my marriage because we were supposed to be promoting health and fitness, and I wasn't. And that's even hard to say still now. My aha moment, which I think most of us have when we really start to make this ultimate change in our life, was one day when I just heard myself making an excuse about why I couldn't get a workout in. And, you know, I'm sure I've heard myself before, but like I actually heard myself. And I'm not sure why the light bulb decided to go off at that moment. But the only thing I can think is that I just got so sick of hearing it. I just got so sick of hearing my own excuses. I got sick of hearing myself blame others for my circumstances. And I realized that the only person responsible for my health was me. And I was ready to make a change, but I knew I had to start somewhere different this time. I knew I couldn't keep starting in the same place. It wasn't another quick fix that was going to get me to my goal. I actually had to make changes from the inside out. And instead of like in the past where I would just set a goal and then have no plan to get how I was going to get there, this time I really believe that I needed to start with habits, and I needed to start to see myself as the person that I wanted to become. I couldn't wait until I felt better anymore to start being that person. I had to start seeing myself as someone who prioritized themselves now and prioritize their health now. That's hard. But I dug in deep and I learned what sustainable change and habit formation actually looks like. I learned about the tools that would help me create long, real, lasting change. I started small, like so small. I started just by creating a morning routine, and I did that for a long period of time, and then until I felt good about that. And then I added something on top of it. I stopped restricting food constantly. And instead I started to focus on eating for how it made my body feel. And I started adding things in instead of taking everything away. I hired a coach for accountability that I needed. I tried to do it on my own in the past, and I knew that for me personally, success would not happen unless I knew someone else was paying attention and counting on me to show the heck up. The other thing I started doing is I started saying no a lot. No to the 100th thing on my to-do list that I was doing for someone else. Like, no to the extras that were taking away from what I could provide for myself. It felt weird at first. And then all of a sudden, I had the space I needed to focus on myself so I could be a better mom and a better wife and a better friend. I started to flourish, right? I quit a job that I hated. I pursued my passions. I started saying yes to skiing and mountain biking with my family. I started saying yes to showing up as a better wife, as a business partner, as a mom. I felt sexy again. I wasn't hiding. I loved who I saw in the mirror. I didn't feel self-conscious about putting a bathing suit on anymore. I wasn't the same version of myself at 20. I was better because when I looked in the mirror, I knew that the person that was looking back at me had invested in herself and her health for good. But my journey didn't stop there. I felt so good. I wanted to help other people feel that way too. I started to educate myself. I got multiple nutrition certifications, and I started to dive in even more into how mindset really does make all the difference. At almost 40, I feel better than I have ever, and I have dedicated my life to helping other women do that same thing for myself. I am so freaking thankful that I discovered my life's passion. My journey taught me that if you don't invest in yourself and your health, you don't have anything. Becoming a better version of myself helped me become a better mom and a better wife, the person who I had dreamed about becoming and had honestly lost hope that would ever show up. I hope that sharing my journey inspires you. I hope that you don't feel alone. And if you feel like it isn't possible right now, don't quit. It is possible to feel sexy, to feel vibrant, to flourish, and to feel good in your own skin. I'm so glad you're here in the Flourish community. I'm here to support you, to guide you, and to encourage you every step of the way. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'd so encourage you to join our Facebook group. I'm going to put that link below. It's an amazing free community of women all going through the same things together, supporting one another and learning what works for our bodies as we age so we can flourish and find that confidence that we know is deep down inside us and live a life that we're dreaming.